Hello, and welcome to Saturday's show at the Wacky Bookshelf. For those new here, this channel is all about books you didn't know about. If you are a returning subscriber, we thank you for watching our videos and building the channel. We are a community of explorative readers, and we are always open to new book suggestions. All of our book reviews can be found in the description below, along with our merchandise and book blog. Please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel for new content. Thank you for your support, and now on to today's book.
Eustace Mullins' The Secrets of the Federal Reserve opens with a provocative assertion. The Federal Reserve, far from being a government institution working for the public good, is a private banking cartel that serves the interests of an elite few. Mullins sets the tone for the book by claiming that the establishment of the Federal Reserve was orchestrated through secretive and deceptive means, with far-reaching consequences for the American economy. Mullins begins his narrative with the clandestine meeting held at Jekyll Island, Georgia, in 1910. This meeting, attended by influential bankers and financiers such as Paul Warburg, Nelson Aldrich, and representatives of J.P. Morgan and the Rockefeller family, is portrayed as the birthplace of the Federal Reserve. Mullins provides detailed accounts of the attendees and their motives, arguing that their primary goal was to create a central banking system that would grant them control over the nation's money supply. The book then moves on to the legislative process that led to the creation of the Federal Reserve. Mullins discusses the political maneuvering and public relations campaigns that were employed to garner support for the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. He emphasizes the roles of key figures such as Senator Nelson Aldrich and President Woodrow Wilson in facilitating the passage of the act. According to Mullins, the Federal Reserve Act was presented to the public as a measure to stabilize the economy and prevent financial crises, but its true purpose was to centralize financial power. Mullins provides a detailed examination of the structure and organization of the Federal Reserve System. He explains how the system is composed of 12 regional Federal Reserve banks, each ostensibly operating independently, but in reality coordinated to serve the interests of their private owners. Mullins argues that the Federal Reserve Board, the central governing body, is dominated by individuals with ties to powerful banking families and corporations. The book delves into the Federal Reserve's role in shaping monetary policy and its impact on the American economy. Mullins critiques the Federal Reserve's practices of controlling interest rates and regulating the money supply, arguing that these actions have consistently favored large banks and corporate interests. He provides examples of how the Federal Reserve's policies have led to economic instability, including the Great Depression and various recessions. Mullins argues that the Federal Reserve played a significant role in causing and exacerbating the Great Depression. He examines the actions of the Federal Reserve in the lead-up to and during the economic crisis, contending that its policies of tight money and high interest rates were detrimental to economic recovery. Mullins also discusses the Federal Reserve's role in subsequent economic events, such as the inflation of the 1970s and the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s. The book explores the relationship between the Federal Reserve and the financing of wars, particularly World War I and World War II. Mullins argues that the Federal Reserve facilitated massive government borrowing to finance these conflicts, resulting in significant profits for banks and increased national debt. He contends that war has been used as a tool to consolidate financial power and control. Mullins addresses the criticism and controversy surrounding his claims. He acknowledges that his work has been labeled as conspiracy theory by some, but maintains that his research is based on historical documents and evidence. Mullins argues that the secrecy and lack of transparency surrounding the Federal Reserve warrant skepticism and further investigation. In the concluding chapters, Mullins discusses various proposals for reforming the Federal Reserve. He highlights calls for increased transparency, accountability, and public control over the central banking system. Mullins advocates for a return to a more decentralized and publicly accountable monetary system, arguing that this is essential for restoring economic stability and fairness. Mullins concludes The Secrets of the Federal Reserve by reiterating his central thesis. The Federal Reserve is a private banking cartel that serves the interests of an elite few at the expense of the American public. He calls for a re-evaluation of the Federal Reserve's role and functions and urges readers to demand greater transparency and accountability in the nation's financial system. Centralization of financial power. Mullins argues that the Federal Reserve was created to centralize financial power in the hands of a few elite bankers and financiers. This centralization has significant implications for economic policy and stability. Lack of transparency and accountability. A major theme of the book is the secrecy and lack of accountability surrounding the Federal Reserve. Mullins contends that this opacity allows the Federal Reserve to operate in ways that benefit private interests rather than the public good. Economic manipulation. Mullins claims that the Federal Reserve has manipulated monetary policy to create cycles of inflation and recession, benefiting large banks and corporations while harming ordinary Americans. Historical context. The book provides a historical perspective on the creation and evolution of the Federal Reserve, highlighting the roles of key figures and events in shaping the central banking system. Call for reform. Mullins advocates for significant reforms to the Federal Reserve, including increased transparency, accountability, and public control. He argues that these changes are necessary to ensure a fairer and more stable economic system. The Secrets of the Federal Reserve offers a controversial but thought-provoking examination of the central banking system in the United States. While some may view Mullins' assertions with skepticism, the book challenges readers to critically examine the role and impact of the Federal Reserve on the American economy.
And that concludes Saturday's Wacky book summary. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this content, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. This book and many more can be found below in the description. You can support our community by engaging in the comments section and share if you think others would enjoy this content as well. Thank you again for visiting the channel, and we will see you around soon.